Welcome to another episode of the Dear Souls podcast. Today we have a special guest, Donna Campbell, known as the Mind Whisperer. Donna is an international healer, author, and speaker who empowers individuals to transform their lives by aligning their energy to create happiness, prosperity, and love. She brings a wealth of knowledge from her experience as a former financial advisor and healer, sharing powerful techniques that have helped countless people achieve a balanced lifestyle. Donna is also the author of the book Financially Fit, where she explores the connection between emotions and financial well being. She's here to share her insights on energy, healing, prosperity, and creating a life filled with abundance. Welcome to the show, Donna.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, and I'm excited to be here with all of you beautiful souls.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So, I guess we could start with, just tell us a little bit about your journey from being a financial advisor to becoming the mind whisperer and what inspired you to, have this transition.
Yes. Well, when you're little and you're thinking about different careers that you want to be in, especially when your mom goes, "Well, what do you want to be when you grow up?" A standard question. Nobody says they're going to be a mind whisperer. Nobody says they're going to be a healer. Nobody says we don't have the concept for that. So I chose first to become a financial advisor. And I was a managing principal of an investment firm, and I was responsible for $500 million of other people's money. And this was back in the early 2000s. And
Wow.
so that was a lot of money. Well, the
Mm-hmm.
stress, the worry, the pressure, it broke down my health. And I couldn't digest food for over 2 years. I didn't know. Western medicine couldn't figure it out. And so there became a time where I quit going back and I found a naturopathic doctor, and she did energy medicine as well, and said there's something in the outside of your life that you can't digest, which is why you're not digesting food on the inside. Don't go looking for it. It will surface naturally. And it did. And what surfaced was actually the infidelity of my marriage. And that was when I learned that my husband had been unfaithful. So then from there, after ending the relationship, becoming a single mom of 2 years, um, I moved to an ashram, which is a spiritual living community, because that's what those two events had in common, me.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a year sabbatical from my job and went to go study. And I took my two children with me. Here we are, 2 years after my marriage had ended. I'm dating somebody else. They go to the ashram with me. And it was the start of them having brain cancer, although we didn't know at the time. And that person attempted to take my life through strangulation. So I left that relationship going, this is
Oh
not
my
good.
God.
I moved back to where I started, and then realized that I was financially devastated. My job didn't have me come back after my sabbatical. It was over with. And I was left financially devastated raising two small children. So, how and why did I decide to go into the healing world? Well, when I was in that one relationship and they attempted to take my life, he took his hand off of me just before I took my last breath, and then wanted me to retaliate, and I couldn't. And that's who I was. And so I walked out, and I remember driving back to where I started, promising the universe, God, creator, energy, whatever word you have for it, that if I and my children were kept safe, I would dedicate my life to this healing path. And
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly what happened. I made a promise. And to this day, I've been fulfilling it. There's not any way I can change it. I've tried. And here I am. And I've learned my gifts, talents, and abilities, shared it out with the world. Media, some of the people in the media world asked me what I did. I explained it, and they went, "We don't know what you do, so we're just going to call you a mind whisperer because you reprogram brains." Kind of like a horse whisperer, kind of like a dog whisperer.
Yeah.
You do something and you get the behavior that they're asking for. I went, okay. And then I fought it for like a year or two, and then it stuck. So that's how I'm called a mind whisperer.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful. My heart goes out to you because I know what it is to struggle in relationship, and I know
Mhm.
what it is to have someone be unfaithful and then someone try to take your life. So I could resonate so much with you in that. And oh my goodness, I am, so glad that you got past that. And thank you for sharing that part of you, because I know it's not easy sometimes to open up and share those things.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
thank you for
It's
that.
life. It happens. We're all connected by our stories, and we've all been through things similarly. And it's how we choose to respond, how we choose to change, and how we
Yeah.
choose to move forward that really creates the healing.
Yeah, that is very true. That's very true. So you often talk about the importance of balancing the heart, the mind, and the soul. How do you define this balance, and why is it so crucial?
Well, when we are in complete balance with the heart, the mind, and the soul, we have instant thought creation. We're in this effortless harmonic flow, this energy. Everything is seamless. It just happens naturally. There's no resistance. There's no fight. There's no sacrifice. There's no struggle. It's like your wish is my command, and here you go. But we
Mm,
have to get into that flow first. And so oftentimes we will say something like, I want to be rich and abundant. And we have the mind thoughts. Well, that's
yeah.
great, but that's only a portion of our reality, 5 to 10% of our conscious reality. The
Hmm.
rest of everything that sends out energetically from our body is the feelings and the emotions that we're in. So you can say, I'm rich and abundant, but if you feel a less than, lack energy, doubt, who am I, imposter syndrome, oh,
Hmm.
that's really hard work, energy, you in that 90, 95%, that's what's going to come back. So that's misalignment. You're saying I'm rich and abundant. You are feeling not rich and abundant. You're feeling something different and you're feeling that lack. And so energetically, through the laws of the universe, you are bringing that lack back into you. So when you go through that alignment process and you think I'm rich and abundant and you actually feel rich and abundant, guess what? You're balanced in the heart, the mind, and
Hmm.
the soul, and it effortlessly attracts to you.
Yeah, that is so true, because I have my own experience with manifestation. And that's when I wrote my book, The Power Within and the Law of
Mhm,
Manifestation. And, I knew that subconsciously I had manifested things into my life. I manifested opening up a business after a car
mhm,
accident that nearly killed us, took our dog. I had all that trauma. And, I just kind of like, subconsciously knew how to manifest, but not intentionally, not actually knowing that I was doing it.
mhm,
So I came up with this idea of I want to write a book. And then I said, well, you know what? I'm going to learn to manifest intentionally. And I did. I needed to manifest new tenants for our property. So I
mhm,
did. I put the intention of who I wanted, how, what, type of people and all that I wanted, and they popped up.
mhm.
And it was the funniest thing, because I knew it as soon as I saw their picture on Facebook, because I did a little bit of background check. I was like, oh my God. I told my husband, I'm like, that's them.
Mhm.
And then I manifested selling our RV, and that happened within 2 weeks, so everything just kind of happened.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I was like writing my book at the same time. And my husband's like, you're going to put that book out there, you're just learning all this. And I'm like, of course, this is how you do it. While you're learning something, you actually could write about it and then you can make it into a book. Why not?
Exactly.
you know there's
Exactly.
there's no law saying that you can't, so I did, and there it is. you know so that's fascinating, and it's true. Whatever you want to manifest, if you are aligned, definitely 100% it will come true, it will happen, it will
Exactly.
manifest. But if you're not aligned, it doesn't matter what you have up here, it's not going to come to
Right.
fruition.
And so often we talk about manifesting and creating and all of those concepts and principles. But if you're doing those things, the steps that they say, you put in the intention, you send it out, if it doesn't
Hmm.
materialize within a certain amount of time, that tells us that there's a misalignment and there's something in the subconscious blocking it from happening. And that's where
Hmm.
I step in. I come in as like a disruptor. We find what that is. We reprogram to the right frequency. And then the
Hmm.
pattern changes because it got recoded, it got reprogrammed.
That's awesome. Yeah, I actually read a book on something like that, on how to reprogram your egoic mind, and then program yourself again to what you want, who you want to be. So
Hmm.
I totally understand that. That's actually pretty cool. It could get a little scary, because then you get to the point where you're like, who am I?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you can start creating the person you want, which is fascinating to me.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So in your book, Financially Fit, you discuss the emotional aspects of money. Can
Yeah.
you elaborate on how emotions influence our financial reality?
Yeah, absolutely. Money is incredibly emotional. So, how you think and feel about yourself is how money responds to you in life. So,
Hmm.
you are an energy and an energy field. We can measure it through quantum physics, through science, but money is also energy and a form of energy, but that's outside of us. Without you, that money isn't going to do anything. You have to give it instructions, you have to tell it what to do. So, what I discovered when I was working with my clients, they would say things when they would get to the heart of the issue. They would say things like, I just want to be worthy. I want to
Hmm.
know that I'm appreciated and that I'm valued and that I'm enough. Because you know what? They didn't treat me like I was enough back then. And so I learned all of this other stuff. And one
Hmm.
day it clicked from my financial advising time period. And I went, wow, in the financial planning role, here is your net worth. Your portfolio value is your assets appreciated, or maybe they depreciated. Do you have
Hmm.
enough money to fund XYZ goal? And if you didn't feel like you were enough, you didn't have enough money. So that was when I realized that there was a direct correlation. How you think and feel about yourself on a soul level is how money responds to you
Hmm.
in life. And so one of the things that I did, because financially fit, living the secrets to an abundant and prosperous life is very much the step by step. Here's all of these principles you need to know. And so I
Right.
took that book and rewrote it in a novel format called The Abundant Soul, which is
Hmm.
behind me here, The Abundant Soul, creating inner wisdom for financial success. And so I took
Hmm.
all of those principles and from those principles wove it into a story so you would understand exactly how money responds to you in life based on the thoughts, the feelings, and the emotions that you're going through.
That's pretty fascinating. And it's funny. And because I brought up something before we got on the podcast about what I just uncovered. And I don't know
Mhm,
if we want to maybe dive a little bit deep in there and just kind of like maybe give the audience a little example of how you would maybe give your client an advice on, let's say, like for me,
mhm,
I finally linked my finances to sickness. And it's because I became very ill while I was, having my business and
mhm.
all these things and just kind of like all the traumas from my previous accident. So now that I have uncovered finally that I have linked my finances to sickness, how can I like break that? How can I just kind of like clear it?
Yeah. The first thought that comes to my mind when we think about sickness and illness is actually a scientific study by Dr. Emoto. He took water
Mm.
crystals and had different words to the water crystals and then would freeze them. And you would see when you had like the love and the peace and the joy, you had beautiful forming crystals. But when you had other emotions like frustration, um, anger, might be
Mm.
fear, you had different types of crystals. And we are mostly water. So the
Mhm.
thoughts are programming the cells for that. And when you say the word disease, I was sick, I had an illness. Well, those were the cells that were replicating in the body. And
Mm.
because of that, it was affecting the financial, the energy outside of you, because how you think and feel about yourself
Mhm.
is what your money was. So when you say I had
Wow.
an illness at that time, your
Mhm.
money was sick.
That
But
makes
now there's
total
a
sense because
pattern.
yeah,
It
I
was
felt so
disease.
unworthy. I felt not good enough. I felt like, what am I doing? I'm making all
Right.
these mistakes and I don't have the energy for anything. So all of that, I was just calling into existence the sickness into the financial, which kind of messed
Mhm.
up everything. Huh.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, it does because
Hmm.
of that direct relationship. So your money is going out, it's not healthy, so it's not performing in the way that it needed to perform because it was sick. so to speak,
Mm,
because it's an extension of you. Your business is an extension of you. So to actually clear it, what we would do is it would take about an hour ish, hour and a half to really sit down
mhm,
and go through the mechanics of where it was today, what it felt like then, where it was at in the body. And then once
mm,
we uncover where it was at in the body, that pattern didn't start then when you were sick. It started somewhere between 0 and 9. And we would
mm,
uncover where that was because your body has cellular memory and reprogram that earliest memory. Because when we reprogram the earliest memory, everything else in your life that was associated with that feeling and that emotion will also change,
mm,
not just the belief structure, but everything associated with it. And then
mm,
that's where the reprogramming would take place. And then we would reassess the situation, the story that you told me. It would be vastly different. You would tell me a different story. The body will shift and change. You will feel a physiological change. And then the next
mm,
thing you know, your money is no longer sick or diseased. It's
mm.
healthy and it responds that way and comes back to you. And then there's some other reprogramming techniques that we could go over to allow it to come back to you in abundance.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, I'm really curious to do this with you in the near future. It's something that I think is the next step that I
Hmm.
need to do because I've been healing myself since last April, doing a lot of light work and energy healing and just
Hmm.
kind of doing everything myself and deprogramming my mind and reprogramming it again and kind of doing that just by myself, no mentor, no
Hmm.
nothing. So yeah,
Yes.
I definitely would love to see, have a session with you and see what we uncover. So, what is the dirt method you mentioned in your teachings, and how can
Um,
it help people transform their lives?
DIRT is really an accurate acronym. There we go. And what is kind of fun about it is because we're really clearing the dirt out in our life, the things we
Hmm.
don't. And it's a 4-step process, and it's what I teach in the Abundant Soul Transformations. And the first step is to discover, which means creating the awareness of truly how
Mm,
you feel. Because most of the time, we have no idea. We're just moving from one thing to the next. If it's a powerful enough emotion, we might feel it. The spouse comes home, we have a moment, there might be a flash of anger, there might be a flash of love.
mm,
So when it's a powerful enough emotion, we pay attention, but we don't pay attention to all the subtle emotions, and everything has an emotional frequency to it.
yes.
So then it's really about creating the awareness to how you really feel. So you could be working along on your computer and then you're tired, you're getting a little bit exhausted, but we're not registering it. But when you stop and you ask yourself how you feel, you're creating the awareness. So we're
Mm,
discovering what the emotion is. The second step, the I, is to identify. Now, this is a harder step. We think it's easy to, oh, we just need to identify the emotion. Well, that's great. But most of the time we say things like, yeah, I feel good. Well, feeling good to you feels different than feeling good to me. So, what feeling or emotion is that? Or people will say things like, I'm stuck. Well, you're
mm,
not stuck. The emotion is stuck. So, you really want to identify an emotion or feeling, which could be sadness, anger, frustration, irritation, fear, stress, worry, depression. You want to assign it a name because once you identify the name of the emotion, you have the power to change it. The third step is to release that emotion. And the fourth step is to transform it to a different frequency. So if there's stress, peace also exists. If there's, you know, because in that stressful chaos state, your subconscious is just focused there. But in every moment, every reality exists, every perspective, every frequency. So if there's stress, guess what? There's also peace. So it's utilizing the techniques to bring in the energy of peace to release the stress. And once that recoding happens, the stress is gone, and then when you go back to work or whatever it is you're doing, it's more effortless. There's more of a flow. It just happens. So dirt is discover, identify, release, and transform. We need to see where we're at so we can be in a position of power to make the change.
That's beautiful. Wow. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
Um, you also mentioned that everyone has a subconscious blueprint influenced by various factors. How can one start identifying and changing limited beliefs?
Yeah. Our subconscious blueprint, it's really in our DNA. And it's what we're born with. Because when you were being formed, every thought, feeling, and emotion that your mother went through, even though you were connected by an umbilical cord, you felt that. And that
Hmm.
gave you things to encode. Also, with your father, because you are connected by DNA, whatever he was going through also went in. So that creates our DNA blueprint, plus all the vibrational frequencies of the places of where you went. The Hawaiians are really, really good about this, that if the female becomes pregnant in the marriage, they have to be in a certain energy and a certain frequency. No fighting is allowed or anything because it
Hmm.
affects the fetus.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so that creates that blueprint. But the other thing that's in our DNA is information that is handed down from the people before us, whatever was in the DNA, because it gave us our initial operating system. So sometimes we come here and we're born, but there's information in the DNA that we need to look at. So, for example, my father grew up during the Great Depression,
Mm.
and there was a belief and an energy that you had to hold on to everything
Yeah.
just in case you needed it. Why? Because everything was completely scarce. So he grew up with scarcity. And
Mm.
that was something that was handed down, that things would be scarce. Money would be scarce, or what money could buy would be scarce. And you would buy one thing and you would wear it till you would had it until you wore it out. My father to this day is almost 90, still has his wedding boots that he can't wear from when he got married, just in case he needs it. They're still there just in case. But he can't put them on because they're too small now. So,
Mhm.
so those types of beliefs, that operating blueprint, sometimes it goes back to the DNA and to what we were encoded with. And it may not be yours, but it gave us that operating system to start with.
Mm. That's beautiful. Yeah, that takes me into what I've been working with now, where I want to know my ancestral background and
Mhm,
stuff like that, especially on my grandmother's side of the family. We're from what I know, there were very powerful witches. They were healers, and then but also
mhm,
suffer from a lot of mental health. A lot of them killed themselves or were in really crazy car accidents that they died. So like all those energies, now I'm understanding like why,
mhm.
me being such, 13 years old, my parents going through a divorce, I went into like the rebellious stage, and from
Yep.
there on it was just so many other things that I never really understood why, especially with mental health and wanting to die here and there, kill myself. And I'm like, why am I feeling this way? I love life. And
Mhm,
then now that I'm doing all this research and understanding all of this, that somehow I feel like I knew, but I didn't because
mhm.
it wasn't a thing back then. Now I'm uncovering that, holy crap, I want to know where my ancestors come from. I want to know what they went through,
Yes.
because this is very important, not only for myself, but, I feel like I'm on this mission and I've been chosen to heal 7 generations back and 7 generations forward of my ancestry lineage because no one else right now can do it. No
Yeah.
one else right now is it's brave enough or courageous enough to say I'm taking on this mission,
Mhm.
and I know before I was like, I don't want any kind of responsibility with anything, and now I'm like, no, I have to, because if I don't heal, then how can I expect for anything to get better, even with my son, my grandkids? How can we heal any of that? And it starts with us. So
Yes.
that's pretty cool. Yeah, those
Mhm.
codes. Hmm.
Yes. And when you make the shifts and changes within inside of you because of how we're all connected, and in physics, they call it quantum entanglement, it
Hmm.
actually changes everybody else that you're connected with, as
Yeah.
well as the ancestors and the people of the past who may not be here anymore. So, in a way, we're really healing all of us and group consciousness at the same time.
Yeah, that is true. And when you do the work and you set the intentions for whatever it is that you're going through and really believe in your heart and know and trust the universe in the process of life, things can shift very
Mhm.
quickly.
Yes.
And I had something shift for me. I was going through something with my son, and he's going through his own stuff, and it got to a point where he didn't want to talk to me anymore. And I was like, well, okay. So instead of falling into that victim mode, or life is happening to me, or oh my God, when am I going to ever talk to my son again or my grandkids, I went into, no, that is not a reality for me. He's going through his own stuff, just allowing him to go through his own journey. And then, I sat down in meditation. What was it, last week, I think it was. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to do this meditation. I put my intentions. I brought in all the feelings, everything that I was going through. And then I just released everything. And I'm telling you, within hours, my son called me. We had a conversation. I talked to my granddaughter,
Mhm.
and by the end of our conversation, he's like, I love you. And I was like, oh my God.
Mhm.
It
Yes.
works. It
Yes,
works.
it does.
So we have to really do the work, and we have to want things to be different, and we have to set our intentions and just trust life, because life is happening for us, not to us, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And we get to create it moment by moment.
Yeah, because we are creators.
Very true.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you integrate spirituality into your healing practice, and why is it an essential component?
Well, we're souls, we're energy beings. And regardless of which pathway you choose to honor, it's a part of you and a part of your essence. And without it, you wouldn't be here.
Mm.
So, with everything that we do, it comes to that because we're always learning on a soul's level.
Yeah.
Everything that happens to us is for the soul's evolution and growth. It doesn't happen because we thought it would happen. We wanted it to happen. We didn't want it to happen. There wasn't a purpose. There's always a silver lining gift to everything that we go through. And it's a learning process every single day.
Yeah, every single day. You can't give up. You got to keep trying and keep working at being a better human being and living a better life and more
Mhm.
joyful life, because it's up to us. It's not outside of us. Our happiness is inside of us.
Mhm.
So we have that power to create whatever we want. I love
Mhm.
it.
Exactly.
So, can you share some common misconceptions about energy healing and how you address them in your work?
Ooh, a common misconception. A lot of times people will think that I think positive. And if I think positive and I say this affirmation, it's going to happen. Well, affirmations do work. But what people don't realize is you need to say that affirmation 300 to 400 times a day for 3 to 4 months for it to reprogram the subconscious for it to automatically happen and become true. So, a lot of times people say, "Oh, I positive think and I have affirmations." So, look at my spiritual life. But they're only addressing that iceberg that you see above the water, not that 90-95%
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
down below. So that's one of the things. They do work, but a lot of people approach everything from a conscious level. And
Mm.
you'll ask a question like, "And how does that feel?" And they won't answer the question.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Well, I don't know." And I'm like, "Well, if you did, it's there." So it's really getting to what's underneath the surface, to that part of the iceberg that's submerged. And when that changes, everything else in your life changes as well. So,
That is true. Yeah, I think a lot of us, have a hard time with knowing what we're feeling, because there's so many different feelings involved in everything that you're like, well, I don't know. I think I'm angry, or I think I'm in love, or, but you really don't know
mhm,
unless you really tap into your higher self and you
yeah.
kind of feel what it is, and then just kind of sit there for a little bit and let that feeling come, and you'll know what it is.
Mhm.
Once you're tapped in, you'll know. But if you're like, in that crazy rat race all the time, and you're going through so many different emotions, and you don't sit with yourself and you don't meditate or do anything to really uncover that, you're completely lost. You have no idea what it is that you're going
Well,
through.
yeah, absolutely. And we were taught as a society, this is part of social conditioning, that it's
Mhm.
not safe to feel because the things we did feel when we were little did not feel good to us. And so it
Mhm.
wasn't safe to express our emotions. There's beliefs and phrases out there as children are to be seen and not heard, and all of those things. And, especially the generation I grew up in, if you got hurt, you just took care of it yourself because nobody was going to come to rescue you. Nobody was going,
Yeah.
oh, you skinned your knee, let me help you. We didn't have any of that. So we were
No.
taught that one, it wasn't safe to feel, and two, we couldn't express our feelings out. So then we don't know how to identify what the feeling
Mhm.
is. But once you sit down, like you said, and you meditate or you really go internally, if I did know, how does that really feel? If I had to put a word to it. And then once you're able to start describing the feelings, then, like I said, that's when you have the power to change it. Because if it didn't feel good, guess what? You are empowered to feel something different. And if it felt good, like happiness and joy, ask yourself what could even feel better.
Hmm. Yeah, and a lot of us feel like we're not worthy of feeling good or feeling loved or
Mhm,
joy. It's like, God forbid you feel all those beautiful emotions and someone that is in your life, like a friend or a family member, is going through some crazy shit. And then,
mhm.
you want to kind of share how you're feeling and what, all these
Yes.
great things. And then you kind of dim your light and you kind of like don't do that. And now you go into whatever they're going through,
Exactly.
and it sucks because, it's like, but I want to be authentic. I want to be able to tell you all this and kind of like maybe, give you an example or show you that it is possible to feel happiness and joy and love. It's really inside of us. But a lot of people don't want to hear it. A lot of people are scared. They don't understand it. Again, like you said, we were not taught to feel all that love all the time. It was tough love all the way, and I grew up very much in my masculine all the time because
Because that's what
I found out that my dad was like, he wanted a boy, and then he got a girl. So he raised me to be the tough girl, or whatever. And then, throughout even my adult life, even in relationships, I was so masculine. And it sucked because no wonder my relationships didn't work because I didn't know how to balance my masculine and my feminine. I never even had really a lot of girlfriends because I didn't know how to be with the feminine.
Mhm.
I was such a, tough love type of girl. Like, no, get over it, like get back up, and that's what we're taught. So
Yeah,
it kind of really messes us up throughout life,
it does.
especially if we go through trauma and stuff and we don't deal with it. We don't work through those things.
Right. And something that you said as well, with happiness, one, we're not taught what it really is and how to be happy because then we
Hmm.
were taught that it came from outside of you, but it really comes from the inside.
Hmm.
And that was, one of the first principles in Financially Fit. Happiness is on the inside. And so we
Right.
don't know what makes us happy until we really sit down and take a look at it. And it's not anything outside of you. But what's also interesting is when you have that excitement and you're happy and you want to share all the amazing good things that are happening to you, the people around you don't know how to react or respond because they weren't, and we weren't taught what it feels like to be truly happy for
Yeah.
another person. And there's a difference between, oh, I'm so happy for you. Let me help. Let me do this. Let me do that.
Yeah.
Versus, oh, I'm so happy for you. Because we don't know how to be happy without feeling jealous or envy or any
I
of those things
know.
for our friends. Because we're sitting there going, well, why not me? Because we internalize
Yeah.
everything. And it was just that we weren't taught those things.
Yeah, we weren't, especially, I mean, I'm sure men go through their own stuff, but I could only speak for the feminine, the female, and it's hard because within, our environment, we're so like hateful or jealous or envious. And, I thank God I was never that girl that it was envious of other women. I was more like, sometimes intimidated by them if they were powerful and beautiful and strong, and it kind of I felt like I had to dim my light because I could never be that cool or that powerful or that
Hmm.
um opened or just alive, and happy. So yeah, it's been a journey for me with that. And I don't struggle as much anymore with that, but I do see around me like my female friends that are struggling with the jealousy,
Hmm.
especially that, and the envious, and I'm like, why can't we all just play together, have fun, help each other out? When we get together, we're stronger together.
Yes.
We create a community of women, we're going to be a lot stronger. So that's what I am. That's my other mission, is to create a community of women eventually, that we could come together, inspire each other. It's kind of like what Tony Robbins has done with the UHPW, the women's group thing,
Yep.
unleash the power within her. So, that kind of started it for me, and now I'm getting more and more inspired. And I'm like, you know what? I just want a community of women that we can go and do things together and help each other through stuff and just be empowering,
Mhm.
and I think that that's going to be key for a lot of the evolution when it comes to the women, the feminine energy, to really like dive deep into that ourselves, I don't know if
Absolutely.
you've gone through your own stuff with that.
Absolutely. And there's a way to step up and be in your femininity and
Mhm.
be empowered and yet not flip into that masculine role. Um,
Yeah,
there's a way to do it.
that is hard because I still catch myself doing that with my husband sometimes. He's like, "You're being so like strong right now," and I'm like, "So," like I was weak for so long that now I just don't want to lose that. So I'm still trying to find that balance of my Wonder Woman strength. You know
Yes.
what I mean? But still be loving and humble, and the feminine energy, just kind of like coming out. So it's finding that masculine and feminine balance, which is definitely not easy because we were never taught to even be feminines, really.
No, we weren't. Because, I think we grew up at a time where women could be anything in the world. And we
Mhm.
were taught that we could do that and still have a family and still do all these other things. And,
Yeah.
you know, that's a lot for one person. And so we get into that masculine role, which then changes the men in the masculine role to
Yeah.
receive versus the action oriented side. And so I just think we're going through a really nice rebalancing period right now.
Yes. Yes. It's very exciting. I could see it all unfolding, and it's so
You can
amazing. It's
still be
beautiful.
strong and you can still be feminine.
Mm, working on that. So you've worked with clients worldwide. Are there any universal patterns or challenges you see across different cultures regarding prosperity and abundance?
It always comes down to the money is emotional. And it didn't
Mm,
matter what country or culture you were in. It really comes down to that soul level of, am I worthy? Am I enough? Am I valued? Am I appreciated?
mm,
Um, do I matter? All of those things. And when that shifts and changes on a soul level, everything else in the life, including money and prosperity, changed. And that's the one universal thing I have seen, regardless of the country or the culture. It's also what I see, regardless of the amount of wealth you have or don't have. Those things are still prevalent if you are a multimillionaire. And I have
mm,
clients that are, and the ones that are, living month to month, and I have clients that are,
mhm,
it's very much a universal group consciousness. So as we make those changes, even though it's on an individual basis, once you affect more than 100 people, it starts shifting and changing the group consciousness. And
mm,
now, what I see with some of the children that are coming and the ones that are being born, they're being born in the energy of, I am worthy. I am enough.
mhm.
It's just me who I am. And you may or may not like it. That's for you, but this is who I am. And I
Yeah,
see it. And I see it with our younger generations
yeah.
as well. And so it's shifting and it's changing. It's just getting everybody else to the
On
same page.
board.
That's what I see universally. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times, the younger generations, like Gen Z, not to name them out, but sometimes it feels like they come across a little bit of cocky. But you know what? They know exactly who they are and who they are not,
Yeah.
and they're just going to say it like it is. And
Mhm.
they know that they're worthy of exactly who they are. and that they
Mhm.
are enough. And so I kind of find it a little refreshing, actually.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. I see it with our grandkids. Between my husband and I, we have 10 grandkids from the age of 1 that we're going to actually go see her on the 17th. It's her birthday, so we're going to see her. Her name is Dream. So we're excited to meet her finally. She's going to be a year old and we haven't met her yet, but I could see it even like with our oldest grandson, Bentley, him and how he knows what he wants and, he kind
Mhm.
of likes certain things or doesn't like certain things. And he knows that. And then my feisty little one, Anaya, oh boy, she will speak her mind. And I'm like, I tell myself, don't shut her up, please. Let her just be,
Let her have it.
just, yeah, let her have her moment. Let her go through her stuff, especially with her. She lost her mom almost, almost 4 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, she was very young. She was 4.5. So, I'm like, you gotta let her just kind of like express herself and get curious with her because these kids nowadays, they
They
come
are
with this mind.
so smart.
They
So
are. They are. And they will call you out on shit. Love it.
do. They do. And I love it.
I love it too. So what role does forgiveness play in the healing process, especially when dealing with past traumas or abuse?
Forgiveness is really for yourself. It's not for the other person. It doesn't
Mhm.
say what you did was right or wrong, do it again, that sort of thing. It's really about how you feel on the inside. So it's forgiving yourself an unconditional, loving energy and saying, I no longer am going to hold on to the feeling of whatever it was that you experienced. Because when you feel those lower feelings, the only person you're affecting and hurting
Yeah.
is yourself. It
Yeah.
doesn't go to the other person. They have no idea what you're choosing to feel. And we think they do because obviously we're staying angry and mad.
Of course.
They don't feel it. They only feel what's going on inside of them. And I think the greatest story I ever heard about this was once with Oprah, actually, when she still had her TV talk show. And it was one of the last episodes. And she talked about how she was coming out of like a Neiman Marcus, and across the street was Tiffany's. And she had a falling out with a friend. The person betrayed her. She had all of this anger about this
Mm,
particular person. And when she walked out, she looked across the street and her ex friend was walking out of Tiffany's with somebody else, another friend, laughing and having a good time. And she said,
mm,
I found myself standing there on the street, fuming, angry, mad,
wow.
because she didn't realize how much she had hurt me and she didn't realize this and how dare she's walking down the street happy and having fun. And then
Yeah.
it clicked. I realized I was holding on to these energies and the energies of betrayal, and I was the only one affected by it. So when that
Mm,
energy of forgiveness comes in, it's forgiving yourself that unconditional love, that
yeah.
peace, the energy that you want, and you move on. It has nothing to
Mm,
do with the other person. They have their own path and their own karma and their own set of things to deal with. But
exactly.
how you choose to feel affects
Mm,
everything in your body. So that's the role of forgiveness.
I agree with that. And that brings me, um, a few years ago, my father and I haven't had the best relationship. And, it took me a long time to be able to forgive myself, and forgive him, not for him, but for me,
Mhm.
and it was funny because my relationship with my husband was, we were struggling a lot because we're both very, we're Capricorns, we're twin flames, we're,
Mhm.
we've helped each other grow and, go through stuff. But, I heard something one day and someone said, if you don't have a good relationship as a woman with your father, or at least forgive whatever it was, let it go and just be happy and just know that they are a human being on a journey. Guess what? Your relationship is not going to flourish. It's not going to be a good one, because that energy can affect your relationship with the men in your life. And
Yep.
that goes down not only to my, relationship with my husband, but even my son,
Mhm.
and that hit me so hard. And I called my father and we had not talked for like 2 years.
Yes.
And I called him and I said, I love you. And how you doing? I didn't bring up what happened. I didn't bring up the past. I didn't bring up anything to this day. And we're talking about almost 2.5, 3 years later.
Yeah.
Okay. And we have a good relationship. It's not probably the relationship that I would love and envision, because I have to also understand where he's at,
Yes.
and his level of understanding things, or capacity, or whatever it is, of his own traumas and where he's at. But you know what? We have conversations now. Like, he just called me. He was in a Santo Domingo, and he's like, "You didn't call me for my birthday." And I said, "Dad, I called you the day before, and you told me you were going to Santo Domingo, for your birthday." He's like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, that's right." So, it's like those kind of things now. And I'm like, you know what? I just love it. And forgiveness is huge, even for ourselves, even on a daily basis, because we go through so much, chatter in our minds of all kinds of crazy stuff. And we just got to be aware of those things, and just have that love and that forgiveness inside of you, no matter what anybody else does. It's
Mhm.
here.
Absolutely. It's always in the heart.
Yeah. Wow. So you have done some retreats,
Yes.
and like, it's called the Sacred Valley Healing Retreat in Peru. I
You
think that's
know,
the.
that got rescheduled. So it is actually next June
Oh, wow.
for a lot of
Okay.
different reasons, but culturally, traveling out of the country, we're in a very curious time right now. And
Mm-hmm.
so, just for having optimal environments, it's rescheduled for June. So, we have not yet done that retreat, but we
Okay.
are. And so, it's the Abundant Soul Retreat. We'll be in the Sacred Valley of Peru. We are going to Machu Picchu. We're going to have some fun experiences. We get to make
Ooh.
Peruvian food and meet the king and queen of the Inca tribe. And so,
Ooh.
so yes, it was that, and astrologically, I think things will be a little bit more settled than what they are today out in the political world, we'll say.
Yeah, that is so true. When
So,
was when was that retreat supposed to happen?
next week, August. So,
Wow.
we were, but we did recently reschedule for next June, just so everything is a lot more stabilized.
Yeah,
Because if you don't feel safe, you're not going to travel out of the country, and that is a
exactly.
huge, huge piece right there. So we want to
Mm,
create the most optimal environment. So that decision was made.
that's beautiful. So, I guess people that want to go to the trip next year, what can they
Mhm.
anticipate? What can they expect from, what the experiences? You said you're going to be cooking and meeting the queen and king
Yep.
and all that cool stuff. Are you guys going to be doing any energy clearings in the pyramids, stuff like that?
Yes, and so it's an experiential retreat. So there is about 16 to 18 hours of instruction by me, and I'm going to be teaching you some different things, some skills that you can take, and
Okay.
we'll do yes, the energy healing, but also there's a retreat that I write about in the Abundant Soul book. And
Mm-hmm.
it's going through that process. And so that's the retreat that I'm going to
Okay.
be delivering in Peru. So you're going to learn how to shift and change your emotional frequency, how to really start creating what you want, how to really bring in the abundance, and how
Mm.
does it all interconnect? What does it have to do with our energy centers? All of those things. But we're also going to be utilizing the events, the land, the excursions that we're doing to bring in more of that energy to magnify it as well. So when we're out on location, we're going to do some fun things too.
That's fun. That's fun. That brings me to, I don't know if you're familiar with Robert E. Grant. Him and Matias de Stefanos, they've been going to Egypt and doing a lot of clearing, and they've been finding a lot of like different things in the pyramids. And now they're going to have an event that they're going to Peru to,
Mhm.
I guess, clear more stuff. So I think that needs to happen before you actually go there. So
Yes.
I think the energies will be a lot more clear, a lot more open. Then we could see what happens with all this political stuff that's going on in the world that I really try not to mess with, because I don't like the energies of that. But
Mhm.
cool, cool. So how many days is the retreat?
It's Saturday to Saturday. So when you fly in,
Okay.
fly out in 8 days, 7, 8 days.
Okay.
Yes.
Hmm.
It's a whole week. So
That's
it'll be fun.
beautiful. That's
Yes.
beautiful. I think my husband and I might join you, because he's half Peruvian, and I've been with him to Peru, yeah, to Lima and Asia I think it's Mariflores. There's been a few places we've gone to, but never made it to Machu Picchu.
Oh,
And I know it wasn't for us because we were not in a good space. And now I'm like, I've been wanting to go into these different excursions and different places, and I have this
mhm.
feeling of wanting to go to Peru and wanting to go to Egypt, and I'm
Yeah,
like, well, everything's gonna align when I'm supposed to go.
yes,
So,
it will. Absolutely. And I have some friends over in Egypt, so that's one of the places I want to take a retreat. So
ooh, that's fun. Maybe we'll go
we'll just
together.
all go once a year. We'll go somewhere fun. We can do
That
it.
would be awesome. Yeah, starting next year.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. So let me see. How do you define mind whispering, and what can someone expect from a private session with you?
Mind whispering, it's really the subconscious reprogramming of your brain. So just like a dog whisperer or a horse whisperer, you take the animal or have somebody come out and they assess energetically what is going on with them. And then you look and see what the behavior is, but you also look and see what the goals are or what you really want to achieve
Mm,
for the animal. Like, for example, the dog, has these behaviors. You take it to be retrained and then you get it
mm.
back, you have the result
Like
that
the dog whisperer, Cesar Milan,
yes,
kind of the same concept.
exactly. Exactly. I'm
Nice.
doing the same thing, except we're on the phone
Mm,
and I'm reprogramming the brain because the brain is the fastest supercomputer there is. So if you think of the brain as a computer, you have hardware and you have software. What we do is
mm,
we update your software, the reprogramming of the emotions and feelings. So then you start getting the results that you're looking for. So I come
mm,
in as a disruptor. And so, say this, situation A happens, B is the effect, cause and effect. I come
mm,
in the middle, become that disruptor, and then we reprogram the neuron pathways to a different way. And then because it's a new pathway, we have a little bit of reinforcement to do.
mm,
But then when A happens, B doesn't happen, it reroutes to C,
mm,
for example, which is the result you want. So, what is it like to have a session? Initially, we do the initial work if it's issue based. I do have clients that work with me in a VIP level throughout the year, and we're scheduled to meet, each week. They're learning, they're teaching. We do intensives. These are the ones that really want to dive deeper into the work. But if it's just
right.
an issue based, this just needs to be cleared so I can move on and create what I want to create. What typically happens there is we do the initial session. It'll last about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. And then I do two follow ups with it 7 to 10 days later. Because what we're doing is we're clearing something in the past, and then you go live in your life. And then we take the 7 to 10 days to see what surfaces. And then that will
Mm,
tell us if there's another layer in there that needs to clear, or if we just need to fine tune. And then what
mm,
we do is we start looking at the future of what you want and what you want to create, and we bring it into the present because we're instant beings. We don't want to wait 2 days, 2 months, 5 years for something. We wanted it, well,
mm.
yesterday. So
Yesterday.
we bring it in the present moment. And then I usually do a third follow up, not always, but usually. And in the third follow up, we do the same thing, making sure we're on track, getting the results that we are wanting. I will tell you that people that have worked with me from year after year, generally in the monetary financial side, you get a 25% or more increase in your overall income.
Mm,
So, not what you paid for a session, but your overall income. And the people that are working with me privately on year two, that number jumps between 43 and 47%. So,
wow.
say you earn $100,000 a year, for example, because I like round numbers. Well, the
Mm,
first year you should get a 25% increase. But because that compounds year after year, we're right between 43 and 47% increase by year two overall. But as it compounds by year five, that number should be about $750,000 increase
wow.
for the not looking at the investment for what you did, but
Right.
it's because we did the work because everything is multifaceted. We could do the quick clearing and allow it to just clear and you move on. But the ones that really want to make the impact, that want to learn, that want to
Mm,
do the private coaching and the private mentoring that goes along with it,
mm,
I work with them for a year, and then it's a VIP status. But then those are the
right.
ones that are getting the greatest results, and it far
Nice.
exceeds what they invested.
Nice. What is the cost of that VIP and what is the cost of the other one that you do also, for people that
Mhm.
are just, kind of like month to month, or, they're doing a little bit better financially, but they don't really have a whole lot of,
Mhm.
money to put towards something like this right now, but they really want that change. So
Uh-huh.
what will be the cost for those different sessions, I guess?
So I work two different ways. If we were to do that issue based,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like a one time. We're doing those 3 sessions within that time period. It is actually 1,500 to do that. I do
Okay.
work with people. We can figure out different options, payments, things like that, because I know
Okay.
sometimes that feels like a lot, and not everybody
Yeah.
has that initially just to start. But I do know that you get the results and it changes in that. So that's where it starts. For the custom VIP, on that, what we do is we have a conversation. I write down your goals and everything that you want to achieve, everything. You throw everything at me in this kitchen sink. And then what I do is I put together a custom offer for you.
Okay.
And then once that custom offer is there, it's our baseline. We can say yes to this, no to that. And then we
Okay.
fine tune it for that person, because we want to make sure we're getting the results in the areas that matter the most to you.
Okay.
And then we move forward from there. So some of them might include things like, VIP status and being invited and free tickets to certain events that we have coming up. Some of it might just be, uh, we meet weekly. Some people want the 3 to 4 day intensive. Some people want a private retreat put in for them, but it's exclusive one-on-one work,
Okay.
not so much in a group. Um, but you get all the classes, you can get the meditations, you can get, a lot of different things. So it really depends on the person and where they want to go. And then
Okay.
we put together that and negotiate it and figure out where is, the middle of the road. And then
Right.
my job to deliver those results.
Nice. So it is tailored to the individual person. That's beautiful.
Yes.
So if you, let's say they're like, well, I don't want to do this now or that, and can they pick it up later on and add it, and then you'll just kind of like rework
Yeah.
a new package or add on or whatever that is. So
Right.
you're
So
flexible.
right. The hard part is that it's all interconnected. So depending on where we start, I mean, because if we're working on finances, your relationships are going to improve, your health will improve.
Mm,
It's all interconnected. But what we're doing is we are looking at and saying, well, I had a person say to me, yes, I want to do these. Let's take out the intensives, but in, 6 months, let's take a look and see. And if that's the case, then let's look and see what that would be to add that piece back in. But right now, let's just take that piece out because that's where I'm at. And in the future,
okay.
let's do it. And I've said, perfect, we can do that. So that's where it gets to be a little bit more of a negotiation or more custom
Okay.
for the person, because you have to be comfortable where you're starting at. But also, do you want to learn? Do you want to train? Do you want to open up your spiritual and psychic senses to receive? How do
Mm,
you really want to grow? So that's why it truly customizes, and we can put in or take out anything that we want.
that's beautiful. So do you also do, like, let's say for myself and my husband, if we want to do something together, do you also do that, or it's better on an individual level, so like that you could just focus on that person, or
Mhm.
is it good sometimes to do it together as a kind of like we have to work on this together,
Mhm.
to make sure that our finances and our spiritual side and all this
Right.
is aligning, so then we could go out and create. So do you
Right.
also do like couples?
Yes, and the answer is both. Because what happens here is when I work in on one person, because you guys are in a shared energy field, you share in DNA, the other person's going to change as well. So what happens then is if I'm continually working on one person, this person will grow, but not at the same level. So
Mm,
yes, we can work together and
okay.
do the couple's work. And in teaching that sort of thing, yes. But I also work with you individually as well, because your experiences that need to shift and change to what
Mm,
got stuck are going to be different than your husband's. So there's
yeah.
individual work to do as well. So the answer is both with it. But in teaching and learning and the group things, or if you wanted to do private work that way, we could take a look and see what that would be for both of you. And then we would go back and forth between individual and coming together. And that might
Nice.
be a little bit of a different custom offer in that.
Right. Yeah, beautiful. I like that. Okay. What is the connection between physical health and our thoughts and emotions, and how can addressing these areas lead to better overall health?
Okay, what is the connection between our thoughts and our emotions? So
What?
your
Yeah.
Yeah. So your thought, if you want to look at it, is the car or the vehicle that you drive. It's going to get you from point A to point B.
Mm-hmm.
But the feelings and emotions is the fuel that you put into it. So some cars take unleaded. Some take different grades of unleaded. Some are diesel. Some
Mm,
now are electric. Some are hybrid. Some run on corn oil, hydrogen, different things. If you don't put that
right.
right fuel in your car's not going to go very far. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
be stuck. It's going to break down and it's not going to work. So, what we have to do is put the right fuel, the right energy, or the right emotion and feeling to the thought. Hence, the I'm rich and abundant. But if you feel
Mm,
less than lack energy, guess what? That's the wrong
mm,
fuel. And you're not going to be rich and abundant. So, that's the
right.
direct correlation. Your thought is like the vehicle to get you from point A
Mm,
to point B. The emotions and feelings are the energy or the fuel that we give the thought to go out across the universe to bring back to us what we want? Or does it stay stuck in our energy field and doesn't go very far so we don't have that creation?
mm. So, so basically, if you are aligned with everything, that also will affect your health in a good way. So you'll be
Yes.
healthier, you'll be able to do more things, you'll be able to connect better with other people. So your overall health, mental,
Yes.
physical, it will just be aligned and beautiful. Okay,
Yep.
cool. Now, can you explain the concept of pivoting in life and as you described it and how it can help someone shift their life direction?
Yeah, absolutely. It was actually a method that when I studied with a medicine woman, this is what she taught me, and she called it pivot and shift. So the first way that she taught it to me was in the physical world. So she said to me, if you want to, so say you're in the situation and
Mm,
somebody is reacting or responding a certain way in the room, and it's not in alignment for you, say they're mad and angry,
mm,
you physically move your body. And so this was at the time when I was in that one relationship and that person had been the one that attempted to take my life,
yeah, yeah.
was getting into volatile energy. And so she said, you know, if you don't like the energy of the room, if you're sitting down, stand up. If you're standing up,
Mm,
move, walk across the room, go get a glass of water, go to the bathroom, wash your hands, do something.
mm,
And if you need to really truly stay safe, know that you can leave the house. And I didn't
mm,
really get the concept of what she was saying, but at the time, but that's what I started doing because every time you physically move in a room, the
mm,
energy of the room changes. And it was a way
mm,
to diffuse another person through physical movement. And so that is
mm.
something today that I move a lot. I get
Yeah,
squiggly and everything, but I'm always
yeah.
shifting and changing energy with it. The second way she taught it to me was on the emotional level, that because all energy, all perspectives always exist in the moment. It's just that you got stuck on frustration. The opposite, say happiness, also exists. And
Mhm,
that was the part of what she taught me with those techniques that we call mind whispering and how to reprogram that. And so
mm,
that is the emotional pivot and shift. So there's things that you can do to, well, if I feel this, I can change to that. Sometimes it takes a little bit
mm,
longer to do, but that's that whole process of what we've been talking about. And that's the second way.
mm. That's awesome. Yeah, actually, my husband and I went through one of those yesterday where, you know, he brought up something, then I kind of, share how I felt about something. And then obviously it triggered him because he's still doing a lot of his shadow work stuff. And then, he started getting really upset. And I was just like, okay, I need to leave the room right now. So I don't know what happened. I just went downstairs, got myself ready, and then I went for a walk. That's what I'm doing every day now. I'm walking at least 1.7 miles every day. And by
Yeah.
the time I got back, I was good. He was working like nothing had happened, and then I got in the car. I had to go return the car rental because our car was getting fixed. And by the time I got home and I brought him donuts. And I said,
Nice.
I'm so sorry for my part. And, I love you. And here you go. So I gave him that, and it just shifted everything completely, versus in the past, I would stay there trying to fix it and trying to get to a point, and it would just frustrate him and frustrate me more
Yeah.
versus, you know what, take a step back, walk away, we'll pick it up later. It'll be better. The energies will be all dissolved. And, it's kind of learning how to do those things and pivoting, which
Mhm.
I've learned to pivot a lot in the business and in other things that I'm doing, when things are kind of stagnant or
Yeah.
not moving. I've learned to start pivoting now. So, that's interesting. I didn't even know I was doing that.
Yep. Yep. It changes the energy.
Oh, pretty cool. All right. So, how do you help clients release sabotaging obstacles that hinder their success and happiness?
It's that whole process that we've been talking about for
Okay.
this time. It's the whole mind whispering. Because once we understand what's happening and the energy underneath it, again, we're empowered to change it.
Mm,
And the things that we do to sabotage ourselves, we're setting ourselves up really for failure. But when you go through the reprogramming, you'll
mm,
see that pattern. And then, of course, because it brings to our awareness, we also have the conscious choice if we want to use it as a vice or if we just get to move forward from it. So it's the process,
yeah.
but then you always have, free will and control over if you want to stay in a self-sabotaging pattern or not.
Mm. So, what advice would you give someone who feels stuck and unable to move forward in life?
Stop it. No, I'm teasing.
Stop it.
And when you're stuck and not unable to move forward in life, why do you want to stay where you're at? Well, I don't. Well, a part of you does. Otherwise, you would have already moved forward. So we have to uncover the silver lining gift that
Mm,
it is giving them, because even our vices, even our self sabotaging beliefs, even the energy that we get into is giving us
mm,
something positive. So
mm,
sometimes, we want to stay in a particular energy because it keeps us safe from
yeah.
abuse, for example. And that we fear that if we don't stay here, abuse will happen. Well, in the reprogramming process, there's ways to do it that we get to move forward from the abuse and
Mm,
still not be in the self sabotaging pattern and still stay safe and protected. And so, and then we get to move forward. But a lot of times we stay stuck or in those cyclical patterns because it serves us, it gives us something that we want. For example, people, an older generation, I see this often, stay sick because that's when the family comes around and, oh, we love you. And they get the love and the nurturing. You're in the hospital again. You're this, you're
yeah.
that. And that's how they receive it rather than the people just giving the love, or maybe they don't realize how to recognize the love and the nurturing when they're not in the hospital. So
Mm,
that's a pattern that will keep somebody stuck in sickness and illness. And so when we uncover that, we can reprogram it and then we can teach the other people what it's like to give attention in a positive way when people are healthy versus not when they're not healthy. So there's a variety of different ways. Each person's a little bit different. So, you have to look at their experiences, but
yeah.
there's ways to move forward if you feel like you're stuck. And it's not that you're stuck. It's an emotion or feeling that's stuck and you don't know what to do with it. And then of course it's having
Yeah.
the recognition and the awareness of what that is.
Mm, beautiful. Beautiful. How do you maintain your energy and focus while helping others on their healing journey? Because I know for me, I not any longer. I've learned to keep my energy, but I'm an
Mhm.
empath, so I would lose my energy
Yeah.
depending on the environment, the people around me. I will be depleted within 15, 20 minutes, super tired, exhausted. And I'm like, oh my God, I just literally just went out of the house. What's going on?
Yeah.
So how do you maintain that energy? Because I know you work with a lot of different people and everybody's in a different, energy level
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
frequency level.
Right? The job of a healer is to bring you up and elevate you in vibration. I'm not doing you any good if I'm working on you and 20 minutes later I'm tired and exhausted.
Yeah.
I'm not serving you. So there's a couple of different things that I do. I maintain a particular brainwave pattern. I usually fall between an alpha and an alpha theta brainwave continually. Even though I'm speaking, I teach how to do that. I learned how to live in a meditation regardless of what I'm doing, which is some teachings from a Buddhist monk. When I'm there, those other energies, the exhaustion, the tired, the fatigue, doesn't happen and it doesn't set in. The other thing that comes with that is if I'm tired after working on a client, I did not use my energy correctly, and I used my energy, not the universe creator's source energy for the healing. And I
Yeah.
depleted myself because I was trying to do the healing, not allowing the energy to come through to do the healing for the other person. So there's some different things and ways and techniques that if I'm in a teaching mode, I teach how to do that and how to do those things. Um, the third thing I would have to say is I disassociate because I am not you. You are not me. I'm in your space. I'm reading the energy. I'm witnessing the energy. I'm witnessing everything shift and change, but it's for you, not for me. So when we're done, I disassociate from that energy. I don't want to keep the healing. And in the beginning, I used to do things like wash my hands or drink water. Now I don't do
Yeah.
anything. I find that if I keep thinking about a particular client or something that happened, I'm keeping the healing. So
Mm,
I am removed from that energy. Yes, you engage all your psychic senses. Yes, incredibly empathic. I feel it just like you do because of how quantum
mm,
physics work. But I also know that it's not me. And then when
mm,
I know who I am, for me as an authentic person. And if I'm in an energy that's not normally me, I stop myself and understand why and what's happening for me to feel something other than what I'm used to feeling. So, for
right.
example, yesterday, the stock market went down. I didn't know it went down. And I was stuck of thinking of old patterns in my past of and thinking that they were resurfacing in my life today. And I stopped myself. I caught
Wow.
the pattern. I'm like, no, this isn't in it. I checked in with a couple of people I know and realized that we were all kind of experiencing something. But the word that I had was, it feels like the world around me is crashing down. Although that not
Mm,
is the current reality, but that was the verbiage. Well, only to
mm.
find out that in media, when you Googled it, the stock market was being reported that it was crashing. So the financial
Oh, wow.
system, the stock market was being reported that was crashing. So the world around me, and it had to do with money, was crashing down. So I had it right, but it wasn't me.
You
But I
felt
was
that
picking
energy.
up on it
Yeah.
empathically because it was a
Mm.
group conscious belief because the media world was so strong, sending out those signals and people were going into fear. I woke up in the morning and immediately that's where my mind went. So that tells
Wow.
me, well, first of all, it's not mine. So how do you shift and
Yeah.
change that? And so I use the same processes that I talk about on myself. But with working with
Okay.
other people in group conscious belief, I had to do the same thing. So I'm not immune from it. I just have a different awareness of it, but I stay disassociated with it. And then it goes to the words that you're using. So whatever you're affirming is what's creating in your life instantaneously. So
Mm.
those are some things that I do, things that I teach in working with people. In the beginning, yeah, when I was practicing as a Reiki master, yeah, sometimes I would be tired after I worked
I
on a
was about
client.
to ask you that because I'm actually studying to be a Reiki master
Mhm.
now, and that actually came up in
Yeah,
the chapter yesterday that I was studying, and I'm like, oh, okay, this
yeah.
makes so much
If
sense.
I'm
Yeah,
tired after doing a Reiki session, I used my energy
your
instead of
energy,
allowing
not the
the energy
universe.
to come through you. and
Mm,
then go to the other person, it should uplift you and energize you, and everything
yeah.
that would be going to the client, because it goes to the client after it goes through you. But if it left you
Mm,
depleted, your energy went. So I often taught my students when I teach those classes, think of yourself as a bamboo straw, that it comes through you, but because it doesn't stick or anything, my energy is not sticking to it because we want the pure energy.
right.
And then when I work, it's in a matter of holding yourself in an energy of no thought or pure thought, because whatever you're thinking will go into the other person.
Exactly. Yeah, that's funny because I've learned to, whenever I know that I'm not in a good space, I stay away from everyone.
Yeah.
Even my husband, most of the time, I would do that because now I understand that energy, we're very sensitive to it. And I just realized my husband is also an empath.
Yes.
And so I've learned because, before victim mode, before I
Mhm.
realized all this, I used to just vomit everything that I was going through on people, not knowing that it was affecting them. And
Yes.
now that I'm learning all these different techniques, I'm like, no, when I'm going through my stuff, that means I'm going down to my basement. I'm going to go do my shadow work. And
Mhm.
before it will be weeks of me down there in the darkness and that rabbit hole. Now, within a few hours, I go
Yeah.
through that work and I'm good. So yeah. Oh, cool.
Now,
Pretty
the
cool.
other thing too is there are certain techniques and certain things that you can do to shift you out of that. And it's really that alteration of the brainwave patterns and a certain meditation that if you sit
Mm.
down and do, you'll actually forget why you were even mad because of how it works. And I teach how to
What is
do
that meditation called?
I teach how to do it. It's a certain way to
Okay.
do a meditation. I teach it.
Okay.
I don't have it recorded or anything like that. I don't have a name, but it's a way to alter your brainwave patterns to
Hmm.
pull you out of that energy funk.
That's pretty cool. I'm gonna have to learn that. You're gonna have to teach me that one. That would be fun because I love working with energy. I realize I love working
Yes.
with energy and light. So that's one of my favorite things to do now. Besides the podcast, I just love to connect with people now.
Fun.
So, can you share a success story from your work that particularly moved you or illustrates the power of your methods?
Yeah. I had a client who got breast cancer a second time, diagnosed, and
Wow.
she chose not to go back through traditional methods because it came back and she didn't want to put herself through that. So I worked with her for three to
Okay.
6 months until the next appointment that she had utilizing this. And after that appointment, the cancer, the tumors were gone. We
Wow.
continually worked. She tried to recreate it. And every 6 months, you have to go in for testing. And at the end of the
Hmm.
year, because her biggest thing was, I made it past the first 6 months, but when I get to the second 6 months, it came back. And so that was a
Right.
pattern that she was trying to recreate. And so we got past the year mark. She wanted to create it again. We did the work. And on the way she was driving to for the testing, and then she thought it was on
Hmm.
the other side and all this other stuff. We did some instant healing work. She received
Hmm.
it, and they went, "Oh, we're so sorry. We don't know what was wrong with this first test. Nothing came out." So here she is 7 years later, and she is still breast cancer free. To be considered cancer free,
Beautiful.
you have to go past 5 years. What did she do in that in between time? She came to me thinking she was going to die from
Wow.
this type of cancer. Instead, it left, and she got to and is still living her best life ever. So they bought some property, they built a house on it. She got a mini goat farm. Now she has donkeys and baby donkeys,
Oh my
and she has
God.
dogs, and she
I
will
love
kennel
donkeys.
dogs, and she paints dogs, and she did Cesar Millan's training and all of
Oh,
that. And she got
wow.
to do all of these things when she didn't think she
Mm,
was going to. And now that is her best
wow.
life that she is living. We still get
Mm,
together. We still clear stuff from time to time of whatever she's going through.
right.
Every so often issue based because our stuff is always, coming up or new
Yeah.
situations. But when people get to live their best life like that, and I get to see it on social media, it's like I got to be a part of it.
No.
And it brings me the greatest joy. So I have a lot of stories like that, where people are moving forward and doing what they always wanted to do when they didn't think that they could.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that because that's very important. There's so many people suffering from all kinds of diseases, especially cancer. I had a lady a few months ago in the gas station where I usually go and put gas, and I walked in and she's like, "Can you please pray for me?" And I've said this in other podcasts, and I looked at her and I said, "What's going on?" And she's like, "Well, I have breast cancer. I just got diagnosed." And I said, "Oh, so you're experiencing breast cancer?" And she looked at me weird. She's like, "What do you mean I'm experiencing?" I'm like, "Yes, you're having an experience. Don't own it. It's not yours."
Nope.
And she just looked at me like not understanding any of it. And it was like, man, like if people really knew that they can heal themselves,
Yes.
the
Absolutely.
world would be in such a better place. People would be a lot healthier, better, happier, because when you're sick, you're miserable. I know, because I was I wasn't happy. I was always sad, always miserable. Life was happening to me. I mean, I was not happy
Yeah.
at all. So I could just imagine someone with cancer
Yeah.
or anything else that is crazy, so
Yeah.
we could heal
And
ourselves.
each of our physical level diseases has an emotional component to it.
Mhm.
Cancer relates to a lot to the energy of resentment. So when we clear out things that we resent or that might make us mad or angry or frustrated or irritated, guess what? You increase in vibration, you get lifted up. The cancer is still down here. The vibration of the cancer doesn't leave. Therefore, it doesn't connect. So it has to leave the body. It's law.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I believe that 100%. Wow. So, what is the infinite prosperity system and how does it differ from traditional approaches to financial success?
The Infinite Prosperity System is actually a digital course that I created that takes you through some of the different principles and things that I teach, shows you a little
Okay.
bit about how to shift and change, but I also use the chakras as the baseline. What are the negative effects with money in the chakras, and what are the positive effects of money within the chakras? And the things that we do. So, one of our self sabotaging beliefs might be, we avoid and we procrastinate, but the
Mm,
opposite of that in the root chakra is also about peace and having a
mm,
piece of the pie. And so you go through it, shifting and changing the energy from the energy centers. And then at the end, you learn, and I show you and I draw it out how prosperity is actually encoded into your DNA. So that's why it's the infinite prosperity system, because it's in you, it's in your DNA, it's your divine right. But it's a digital course that anybody can take.
nice, nice, good to know. I'll be taking that course.
There's a lot in
uh,
there. Self-study, so
Good. Yeah, I love. I now love to study. I now love
Mhm.
to read. Now, when I was in school, for some reason, I was like, "You guys are full of shit." Like half of this that you're telling me
Yeah.
does not feel right. So now I'm like all this, bookworm and everything. So yeah, cool. All right. So, looking ahead, what are your future plans and projects, and how do you hope to continue impacting the world?
So one of the things that I've been working on the last couple of years, healing and energy healing is what I do as a person. It's my mission, it's my soul's calling. I cannot not do it. If I don't, it still finds me.
Yeah.
But the way I express that out has changed. So I write. So I have several different books, Financially Fit, The Abundant Soul. I also have many chapters in different books. So there's probably about 8 other books I have chapters in. I write for 2 different magazines, one being Best Holistic Life magazine.
Mm,
I share articles and all of that because a lot of people want to learn, but you can read and learn and study that way. The other way that I do is, of course, is through speaking, not just on podcasts, but out on stages. And I've been on a number of various stages, trained with some of the most amazing people out there. And now I'm producing events and producing my own live stage. And so I have the Abundant Soul Metaphysical and Business Conference coming up. It's live. It will be in Colorado Springs, Colorado, here in
oh,
September.
nice.
And then we're going to take that same show and replicate it in the Tampa, Florida, and Fort Lauderdale areas. And then we're going to bring it to California. So we're going to be doing this live event every 3 to 4 months
Okay.
ultimately in the end. So in addition to the live stages, the importance is I can do a demonstration from a live stage, demonstrate on one person, but yet not just transform the person that next to me, but transform the whole audience of 10,000 people
Mm,
simultaneously. So that's what the life stage is. But because
beautiful.
of event planning and putting together other events, I had an opportunity to put together a live retreat day with Dr. Joe Vitale. That was a lot of fun. They've asked me to produce
Mm,
more of those. And the other new fun project that's coming up is producing documentaries where I can also showcase other people and how to do this with my media partner, the Los Angeles Tribune. So there's
nice.
lots going on. We have more retreats coming. We have Peru coming up this next year, some individual retreats,
Beautiful.
and I
What
want to
about
put together some
Atlanta? What
women's
about
retreats.
Atlanta, Georgia?
Could be possible. We can go anywhere. So once we
Yeah.
get the base down, we can really
Yeah.
take the show and travel, kind of like the
Okay.
rock concert that goes everywhere.
Yeah.
Same thing, except we're speaking and it's concert style and we're transforming.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, I love to travel to different places, but we live 2 hours north of Atlanta in the mountains. So we have Chattanooga about 2 hours away. We got Atlanta, then we have Asheville. So we're
Yep.
kind of like in the middle of all those places. So
Yep.
whichever of those, if you come,
All things
I
are
would
possible.
yeah, I would love to come to your events because I think that, from what I researched on you and the different podcasts that I heard and now having you on my show, which is such an honor. Thank you so much for being here. And, just kind of like really feeling that vibe, that connection and saying, you know what, there's something here. So, I do want to connect more with you and do things and clear all whatever needs to be cleared out. So I'm
Yes.
really looking forward to all that. So, Donna, we are at the end of our show, and I like to ask three different questions, and they're always different.
Okay.
Actually tailored to the individual person that is on the interview. So, my first question is, what steps can you take today to align your thoughts and emotions with the life you truly desire?
Create the awareness of how you truly feel. So set a timer on your phone for some odd time, like an hour and 27 minutes from the time you're in now. And when that timer goes off, stop what you're doing and assess how you truly feel on the inside. You just might be surprised.
Hmm, that's a good one. In what areas of your life can you bring more love and compassion, both for yourself and others?
All of them. Love is what creates everything in the world. And it's really an energy, a pure energy before it becomes anything else
Mhm.
in the world. Compassion is the gateway to going to that energy. So, in all of the areas, so it doesn't matter what aspect of your life that you're looking at.
Mm,
If you're in the energy of love and compassion, you're accessing energy that you can use to dictate to create instantly in your life.
beautiful, beautiful. What old beliefs or patterns are you ready to release to step into a more prosperous and fulfilling future, not only for yourself, but maybe for a message for someone in the audience or for everyone?
Um, I don't know about willing to release because each person's going to have a different answer. But what I will say is to the three energies that need to be acknowledged to be able to release them. And that is faith, trust, and belief every single day. So it's trust and you will see, believe and you will know, have faith, all is well, follow your heart, and spirit will lead you. And so those three things, faith, trust, and belief, are the three key energies we have to be able to release anything that is holding us back from where we want to go.
Beautiful. I love that message. Thank you so much. And where can people find you, Donna?
The easiest way to connect with me is to go to bettercalldawna.com, and Donna is spelled Dawna. So bettercalldawna.com. You will see there a couple of videos, some testimonies, but most importantly, you can just book personal time on my calendar for 15, 20 minutes. And then we can uncover what your block is, what your belief is, or what needs to shift and change, and what is the best outcome for you. But you can just type my name into Google as well, and it should pop up.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you for that. And again, I'm honored and I appreciate you being on the show and look forward to working with you in the future.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. You're welcome.